My name is Simon Briceno. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for Jaunt Air Mobility. Jaunt Air Mobility is a transformative aerospace company. We are building the very best in the next generation of electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. Our patented technology is the slowed rotor compound that is on our eVTOL aircraft. And we are targeting the air taxi, the urban air mobility market, as well as the cargo market. Jaunt Air Mobility is formed about 3 years ago. We are headquartered in Dallas, Texas, and we acquired all of the slowed rotor compound technology from a previous company called Carter Aviation that was maturing that technology over the last 2 decades. That technology has flown on a technology demonstrator, or what we call the Jaunt technology demonstrator. It has over 300 flight hours, piloted flight hours, and that same technology, the main rotor technology, is what we are going to be using on our all-electric Jaunt journey. This aircraft configuration is what you call a compound configuration, and that is a combination of a single main rotor as well as a fixed wing like a conventional airplane. And the aircraft takes off and lands like a conventional helicopter using our single main rotor. The anti-torque for that main rotor is provided by the 4 propellers, 2 on each wing. As you can observe, we don't have a tail rotor like a conventional helicopter. We also use those propellers on the fixed wing to fly horizontally in cruise. That provides our main thrust. When we're transitioning from vertical flight through cruise flight, we begin to slow down our main rotor, and that's one of the patented technologies that we have. We have the ability to slow down dramatically the RPM of our main rotor to provide the efficiency that you see with conventional fixed-wing airplanes. By slowing down the main rotor, we're able to drastically reduce the drag associated with having a flying rotor like a conventional helicopter. In addition, you're able to reduce and minimize the vibrations associated with having that rotor. This aircraft is going to target the air taxi market, and it's transporting people in and around large urban cities. We have a capacity in our payload for 4 passengers. We have a single pilot certified for IFR flight. And we are also designing the aircraft. We have designed the aircraft to accommodate a palletized load, cargo loads, to provide an option for those markets as well. The primary work that has been accomplished over the last 3 years is to work with our Tier 1 and Tier 2 aerospace suppliers, form the right agreements to have suppliers on board. We have BAE Systems, we have CAE, and many more that have agreed to provide some of the critical systems for our aircraft. We are all going to be working together over the next 4 to 5 years as we continue to wrap up our design phase as well as begin the certification campaign that will then culminate in type certification and entry into service by the end of 2026. Jaunt Air Mobility is taking a different approach than some of the other players in this market from an aircraft certification standpoint. Our configuration is considered a rotorcraft, part of the rotorcraft category of aircraft, and as a result, we intend to certify as a certification basis using Part 29, Rotorcraft Transport Category rules and standards. The benefits of certifying under Part 29 Transport Category Rotorcraft rules is these rules exist today. This is how Transport Category Rotorcraft helicopters are certified. They account for some critical areas like bird strike, damage tolerance that you won't find in other parts. And this is important for the eVTOL community to ensure that we're achieving the level of safety equivalent to transport category aircraft that we see today. Our primary aircraft program is the all-electric Jaunt journey. We are working very closely with BAE Systems in the design and development of our battery system and our energy management, in addition to the work they're doing on our flight control computers and fly-by-wire system. We intend to, we are, in addition to that, exploring additional concepts. One in particular is a hybrid configuration. We're working closely with Vertigo Aero to evaluate the benefits of introducing a hybrid genset into a similar configuration using the same patented main rotor technology that we have on our Jaunt journey. There's already a need for vertical takeoff and landing aircraft to be able to satisfy many of the cargo missions that we see in and around cities. So with a hybrid aircraft, we're able to not just increase our payload and range capabilities with the partnership that we have with Vertigo. This allows us to target specifically the cargo market by also changing the fuselage configuration slightly and increasing the volume. And then in addition to that, we are working on a contract with the Air Force on a military program that's called a high-speed VTOL. And we are collaborating with partners there as well to provide the Air Force and their mission requirements with a vehicle that will satisfy their speed, range, as well as the downwash requirements that are critical for military rotorcraft operations. The Air Force mission requirements are such that we have to include at this stage a propulsion system that is not that doesn't rely on just battery electric power. All these aircraft configurations are enabled by the slowed rotor compound technology that has been developed over the last few years. When we enter service in 2026, on day one, we expect to use the aviation infrastructure that we see today. This includes existing helipads, existing runways and airports, regional airports, large airports. There are thousands of underutilized airports around the US. We believe that existing infrastructure is adequate today in order to provide initial operations for urban air mobility. As we ramp up and scale operations, we certainly will see a need to add additional infrastructure to provide options to these new routes for customers. We have been working and partnering very closely with some additional companies that have decades of experience in aviation infrastructure to ensure that we're providing our customers and operators the adequate understanding and knowledge and the preparation that they will need in order to fly our aircraft over the next 2 decades. And we've formed an alliance. It's called Access Skyways. Currently, this alliance includes Jaunt Air Mobility, BAE Systems, PS&S, and our recent announcement to this alliance is Avports. Avports manages over a dozen airports here in the US, small regional airports that are going to be absolutely critical to launch this urban air mobility market. Some of the critical aspects of the infrastructure that will be required for many of these aircraft is certainly the charging infrastructure, the interfacing with the energy grid in the surrounding areas, and then all the way up to the interfacing with the aircraft itself, the charger. And there's a lot of work to be done on that aspect. In addition to that, the ground infrastructure from a standpoint of accommodating passengers in and out of terminals as we scale and grow the capacities, the design of those facilities and those terminal facilities will have to be accounted for. And of course, when you now think about the flight characteristics or the flight operations of these aircraft in and out of these landing zones, we call them vertiports or helipads or existing infrastructure, there's going to be work that needs to be looked into or completed related to the airspace, approach procedures, things of that nature. And certainly once you're on the ground, taxiing and all those other flight activities and operations have to be addressed, certainly as we scale operations. And so these companies have expertise in those areas, and we are looking forward to, and the reason we formed this alliance is to work collaboratively in order to ensure that by the time we enter service that we have the right infrastructure available. At Jaunt Air Mobility, one of our big strategies going forward is the activities in Canada, and in particular in Montreal and Quebec. We have announced that we will be certifying under Part CAR 29 with Transport Canada. And for that reason and many others, we are having our manufacturing and design centers located just outside of Montreal. We are going to work very closely with the Canadian aerospace suppliers. Quebec and the Canadian government are extremely supportive of the aerospace industry there and the green aviation and new technology industry. And it's a perfect and prime location for Jaunt to have its final assembly and design centers and engineering work that will primarily take place in Montreal going forward. Jaunt Air Mobility announced last year in October a merger with the Aero Group, a combination of other aerospace and defense companies. We are currently going through that business combination. We are excited to announce this year the result of that combination and our next steps. This opportunity will provide Jaunt with the necessary capital to accelerate and ramp up our program. To date, our suppliers have been working on some of the critical technologies, including one of the most high-risk areas. BAE Systems has been working on the battery system, conducting cell testing, propagation testing, and have been very successful in demonstrating the cycle life of these batteries. Going forward, we're going to continue those system-level tests, and over the next 2 years, Jaunt Air Mobility will be building a full-scale prototype demonstrator that will also be used for flight testing and data gathering. Beyond that, we will be entering our certification campaign where we will have additional testing with additional vehicles, and then that will culminate in type certification by 2026 when we intend to enter service.